tell you why I believe Crown Jewel was mid. Because while I don't really have a lot of bad to say about it, I really don't have a lot to say in the good department either. And the mid started right away because we had the OG Bloodline versus the new Bloodline in a 6-man tag match. Now for starters, I understand what WWE tried to do here as they tried to build up that Jay and Roman are really not on the same page, and the new Bloodline are just completely in sync because Solo's always treated them better, you know? Solo was never the ruthless tyrant that Roman Reigns was during his time as the leader. Solo has been very respectful to his teammates. And you could see the confusion because the OG Bloodline was not on the same page. Jay and Roman wanted to do their own things, Jimmy trying to play peacemaker. And then if you look on the other side with the new Bloodline, everything was one giant unit with Solo running the show. After some Tongaloa ref shenanigans, eventually there was a decisive winner because Solo Sikoa hit 3 Samoan spikes on Roman Reigns and got the pin. Also a few botches along the way. I mean, there was a missed pin breakup, but that's the least of my concerns at this point. But after the match, Roman Reigns and the rest of the Bloodline were getting attacked by the new Bloodline when, boom, Sami Zayn would come out and confront Solo Sikoa and the new Bloodline. And what would happen next would be great because they would clear out the new Bloodline and it would be a 4 corners moment with Solo standing in the middle, and eventually Sami Zayn goes in for the kick, the haluva kick I think, and Roman Reigns I believe went in for a spear, but they ended up colliding and Sami Zayn kicked Roman Reigns, which then started massive chaos as Jimmy got pissed, how dare you hit Roman, and Jay was trying to defend Sami, showing once again that they are just not on the same page. But the more I think about it, the more I think this match was pretty mid. I guess it accomplished its goal, and I think it's going to be a lot better when we get to War Games. But for what we got at Crown Jewel, the limited action, I thought it was meh. Next up was a 4-team tag match for the Women's Tag Team Championships, and this match was fairly solid for the amount of time it was given. Each team got to stand out in their own way. I think Jakara Jackson and Lash Legend immediately synced very well with everybody in this match. Io Sky is probably the most underrated superstar in the entire world right now. Kairi Sane's unbelievable. Chelsea Green is hilarious, but in the end of the day, it would be Bianca and Jade that successfully defend their titles. Which, while I do believe it was a questionable decision because I feel like we probably set this kind of a match up to make them not look weak and have somebody else get pinned and have the titles transfer hands similar to how they lost it the first time. But if they want to keep it on Bianca and Jade for now, that's totally okay. They are insanely good for the women's tag team division. I really do want to see them going back to NXT and going to SmackDown and Raw and competing everywhere because it's great. It's great for the belts. It's great for the company. It's just perfect. But yeah, I felt like this match delivered. I feel like if anything, it should have been given a little bit more time, but you did have 7 matches, well, technically 6 matches on the PLE, so I understand why it couldn't go too long, but overall, good match. Then we get to a match in Bronson Reed versus Seth Rollins, which honestly, I just am surprised that it's on a PLE because this screams a Raw match, but listen, I'm happy to see it on a PLE. It was Seth's first match back since I think July, and this match was good. I just don't think the winner was correct. I felt like if you want Bronson Reed to be a credible big heel in the company, you needed to give him this win here. And I know I was going back and forth with some people in the chat about this who felt like Seth should still win. I don't know. I disagree. I think Bronson Reed needs this way more than Seth. I mean, I think 2 years ago, Seth had the most losses in the company, or maybe it was 3 years ago. So he can afford a loss. What I'm frustrated about is a guy like Bronson Reed doesn't get a lot of opportunities here. He doesn't get a lot of opportunities to be on PLEs or even main event regular weekly shows. He's on a PLE against a guy of the caliber of Seth Rollins. I feel like he could have used the win here. But if I just get rid of the result and I just think about the match itself, I do think it was a great match that did what it needed to do in the limited time. It was a Seth Rollins just stomp fest when it needed to be. It was a tsunami fest when it needed to be. It was good. I really enjoyed what I saw from Bronson Reed there. He kind of had the Braun Breaker like frustration of how isn't this guy done yet, gets a little cocky, takes up the steel steps, and now you're thinking, oh, this is where he's going to lose it because he's, getting too angry and too distracted and he lost focus, and that was really where the end lied. But I'm sure Seth Rollins is going to enter the world title picture now, and I don't really know what we're going to do with Bronson Reed, but I hope they keep using him. I hope he goes into the Intercontinental title race or, figures out somewhere to be in a big high-profile feud because he's great. I really enjoyed what I've gotten from Bronson Reed, and I really hope we don't lose out on that because of this loss. Next up was the first ever Women's Crown Jewel champion. It was champion versus champion, Liv Morgan versus Nia Jax. Something that hit me while I was watching this match was, wow, this is two heels, and WWE really doesn't like to do that, where you have two baby faces going at it or two heels going at it, but I guess situationally this is the one that made the most sense, but it kind of felt like Liv Morgan was the one that the crowd was cheering for the most, so I guess technically she was the babyface here. And this match kind of went the way you expected it to go, that Nia was going to pretty much squash Liv until eventually Raquel and Dominic Mysterio showed up, which is what happened, but what we need to point out is before that, Tiffany Stratton comes down and once again teases the cash-in of the Money in the Bank. Now, frankly, I am sick and tired of the teasing of heel turns, babyface turns, cash-ins, and I feel like in Triple H's wrestling, in Triple H's WWE, that is all we ever get. The tease, the tease. And then we wait for a SummerSlam or a WrestleMania to pull the trigger on these things. So for me personally, I'm kind of over the whole teasing of the cash-in for Tiffany Stratton. Just do it. I want her to just cash in, win the title off Nia Jax. Maybe she'll do it at War Games. Maybe it'll wait till the Royal Rumble, but I'm just over this. I don't like the teasing anymore because it doesn't get us anywhere. Part of us are just excited because we think it's going to happen. We get excited for the match and then gets there and then we're inevitably let down. I felt like this was a good opportunity because it's clear that Nia Jax and Tiffany Stratton are not on the same page together. It would have been the perfect opportunity to pull the trigger here. They didn't, and I guess whatever. But Liv Morgan does eventually get the win with the help of Dominic Mysterio and Raquel Rodriguez. The match was fine. It didn't really need to do anything special. I mean, Liv was the coward and Nia Jax was the power force, and that's what we got. Next up was the match. It wasn't a match. I'm just kidding. It was Randy Orton and Kevin Owens just beating the life out of each other, and we never got the match started. The best part about this whole sequence was that Adam Pearce ended up taking an RKO, and I think it was the referee ended up eating a stunner from Kevin Owens. But yeah, we never really started anything, the same way we never really finished anything. They just brawled. There was no match. Eventually, Kevin Owens put Randy Orton through a table, and that was that. Bit of a letdown. I thought we were going to get a match, and we probably will eventually get one along the lines, but, you know, we were advertised 7 matches, and I was like, oh, here's going to be a big moment for Triple H to show if he could do these 7-match PLEs that are not WrestleMania and SummerSlam, and that's not what he did. Instead, we just didn't get a 7th match. You know that Homelander meme, which is like, it was perfect, everything, down to the last detail? That was this. This was one of the best matches I've seen in ages. And if we're talking about non-SummerSlam and non-WrestleMania matches that really didn't have like the story built into it, like the Bloodline stuff and the Cody Rhodes stuff, this could have been the best mid-card title match I've seen since Gunther versus Drew McIntyre versus Sheamus at WrestleMania. Melo and Andrade's chemistry might be some of the greatest chemistry I've ever seen in a wrestling ring, and you throw LA Knight in there, he had a great part of the match too. It was just like watching Melo and Andrade made me realize that we are in the renaissance right now of wrestling. There was Spanish flies, high-risk moves, and obviously we all knew who was gonna win it in the end of the day. It was gonna be LA Knight, but I'm gonna make a claim here. And my claim is that whenever LA Knight eventually does drop the United States title, I want it to be to Carmelo Hayes. And I know Andrade is a great option too, but I'm specifically saying Carmelo Hayes because this man, bro, I know he goes by it, but he really is him. This guy is unbelievable in the ring. He's cocky on the mic, and he plays that little, like, swagger, heel roll really well. So I think he should be the guy to beat the, you know, good guy with the swagger in LA Knight. I feel like I'm like 50 years old using that word, swagger. Got swag, man. Anyways, if there's one reason why this show may not be considered mid to some, it was this match. This match by far stole the show, and it reminded us once again that this is why we need to have the U.S. title, the Intercontinental title. We need to have these mid-card titles being defended on PLEs, and why I don't think we should go back to the 5-match PLE formats. I think we should say at least 6 matches because you're just reminded of how bad we need these matches on shows. And last but not least, the Men's Crown Jewel Championship was on the line between Cody Rhodes and Gunther. Where do I begin with this match? Because I'm going to tell you guys, there was a moment in time where I was going to say, listen, I love Cody Rhodes. He's my favorite current superstar. I really didn't like it. Like, for the longest time, I was like, I understand it's like a very classical wrestling match and grapples and, you know, all these different holds. And I was just, I don't know, it just wasn't for me, especially after coming off of what the LA Knight, Carmelo Hayes, and Andrade match was, which was high flies and high-risk maneuvers. But what kept me going and kept me optimistic was the crowd. I don't know if I said this yet, but this was the greatest crowd we have ever seen in Saudi Arabia, and I really don't think there's any questions asked about that. It was awesome. They kept me into the match, and as time went on, it was a slow beginning, a little slow burn, but towards the middle and the end, it really started to pick up. The ending was Cody going for a super Cody cutter, which he then got caught in the sleeper hold, which, if we don't know, Gunther kept saying he was going to make Cody Rhodes pass out with the sleeper, and then Cody kind of flipped onto his back. I think that's what happened in the Bobby Lashley-Brock Lesnar match a while ago. That was what happens, and Cody ends up getting the 1-2-3 from it. This was the way to not make Gunther look weak, and I will say that. It didn't make Gunther look weak. It made him look even more upset and frustrated when he lost the match. He kind of went up to Cody, shook his hand in a way of like, listen, you got lucky this time. I'm not going to be a sore loser about it, but you got lucky this time. Which was going to be the case because Cody still, despite the fact that he's holding the top prize in the company, plays the babyface, you know, underdog role, which I really don't get how we're still doing that at this point. But what I will say is, for a one-off match between Cody and Gunther, which was following up the last time we saw these two when they had their mini classic in one Royal Rumble and then had a going interaction in the other Royal Rumble, overall, I think this match did live up to the expectations that I expected from it, but it was also coming right off the back of one of the best matches I've seen in a very long time in the U.S. title match. So even though it did have a slow beginning, I think it really picked up, and I'd probably consider it my second favorite match on the card, as I keep saying, the first being the U.S. title match. So for my rating, I've been fluctuating. I first said I was going to give it an 8.5, then I was like, maybe it was more like an 8, and now that I've done a whole analysis on everything, I'm going to say it was a 7.5. What really put this from just being mid to an upper mid PLE was the crowd. The crowd really felt like they were trying to compete with France this year, and honestly, they gave them a fight. Even though there was some questionable results and some matches that could have been a little bit better and some matches that maybe should have just happened instead of being a brawl, I will say this was a solid PLE. I do expect a lot better, though, from War Games. One point I didn't really talk about too much, but I do want to talk more about, is the fact that we had a 6, advertised 7, but a 6-match PLE card. And I do think Triple H should go forward with these 6/7-match PLE cards because, for example, that match like Bronson Reed versus Seth Rollins, it gives Bronson Reed an opportunity to be on a PLE, which probably wouldn't have happened unless he was fighting for a mid-card title. And even if he was, it probably wouldn't be on a PLE. So I think if we want to give some more opportunities to some other talents that may not be on the PLEs all the time, I think the 6/7-match card is probably the best idea. But anyways, let me know what you all thought of Crown Jewel. Like I said, I thought it was a mid to slightly above mid. Maybe I'm off my rocker. You let me know in the comments down below. Thank you all for watching. I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.